Hey, everybody, it's Anthony Brogdon, your main man. You my people, you know that? Y'all watching me, y'all my people. I got a special a love for y'all because you watching me, and every now and then I get messages, and send me some messages. I don't care, none of them hateful stuff, but messages if you got some suggestions, people that you want me to interview, topics you want me to cover, so on and so forth. Because it is my mission to bring you this good Black history with people who know firsthand so that you can be as I have been for the past 4 years that I've been doing this show, enlightened beyond my imagination. And the guy I got on the channel today, y'all gonna love this. This is a smooth dude. I met him a couple of weeks ago when I went to West Palm Beach, Florida. My man said, "Hey, man, you don't need that winter coat no more." And I said, "Cool, I don't need it." Because it was 30 degrees where I was when I was there, and it was 80 degrees where he was. And so I'm appreciative of him being on the show, and I'm appreciative of you, my viewers. I know it, I can feel it, because you can't beat what I'm doing here. I don't know if there's any other podcasts, and there's a lot of them out there that they do some history, but not with the kind of people that come on this show. I really do feel that way. And let me say this, my friends. I'm Anthony Brogdon. I forgot to tell you who I am. I'm the host here at Strong Inspiration. So do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. You get this, what I call good Black history, for free. So hit the subscribe button and let me know you like me. Hit the like button. There is no love button. Hit the notifications bell so you get a ding, a shock, a smoke signal, your dog kicks you, something to let you know, your horn on your car, the horn on your cell phone. I don't know, but something to let you know there is new content here at Strong Inspirations. And I'm jamming. I got a lot of folks that have want to come on, and I'm ready to do it. I try to ask intelligent questions and then tell somebody about strong inspirations. Do not keep it to yourself, my friends. A couple housekeeping things. As you may know, I'm a filmmaker, and people are watching this because I can tell by my numbers on Amazon. It's called Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America. Actually, this is where it all kind of began for me. Well, let me go back a step further just for a second. I had a Black History Month event where I had some business owners who at the time were in their 80s, 70s, and 80s. And I found that video 20 some odd years later, decided to do something with it, and this is what I did. Now, none of that footage is in here because it was grainy, what have you. But it took me on this journey, and I love this. I'm a better person, like I said earlier. So get you a copy. No, don't get a copy. Ain't nobody got DVD players, but watch this on Amazon. It's streaming on Amazon. And then I wrote the book to accompany that film, Black Business Book. And I'm not the only one, but others will say it is the #1 Black business history book on the market. There's no other book as thorough as this. There are 30, and maybe even more than that, but at least 30 Black folks who were enslaved and they own businesses. It's an incredible story. It's all chronicled in this book. I got a children's book out. Oh, I tell you, I don't play with you, my friends. And that's the children's book. And there's 30 of them in here for sure. It's not as thorough as the adult book. The adult book covers so much more. But for your kids, get them a copy of this book so that they can understand the richness and the smarts that's within us going back to the 1800s. I'm doing speaking around the country. I was in his town, like I alluded to earlier, and I could come to your town and I could tell some of the amazing stories, and I do it eloquently too, my friends. I don't play now. And so maybe that might be something that you can consider having. And so all the way I travel, how to get the books, so on and so forth, is on my website, which is businessintheblack.net. And you seeing some of the videos. The one I did with the lady who was the first Black to integrate a school in Jacksonville, Florida. She said they put tacks and nails and rats and everything in her desk. They even tried to kill her one time so that she would not graduate with them. She has since gone on and got her doctorate. And so watch that video. How about the one I did with the lady out of Rosewood, Florida? It was her great uncle that was the one they accused of having some relations with the white lady. He wasn't even close, didn't even know her. And that's what started and sparked that Rosewood massacre. Did you see the one I did with the guy out of St. Augustine, Florida? And others too are in Florida too, because this gentleman is out of Florida. Now I'm kind of giving you a little roundabout little hint of who he is and where he's from. But the St. Augustine, the museum in Lincolnville, which is a Black community in that town. Watch that video. And there's so much more. Now, you hear me use this term strong. Strong is my favorite word. In my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to the strong soul brother on the show today. Come on, man. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on, brother. You got me fired up and excited.
Yes, sir.
So I am, well, it's an honor, first of all, brother, and I mean that, to be here. The one thing that I know for a fact that you and I share in common is that we have an unconditional love for Black people.
That's right.
Okay. So the work that I do and have been doing for 30 or 40 years now is all about helping our people move forward, or as I like to say, the positive development of the Black family.
All right. Hold on, let me stop you there because you didn't do this. Tell us your name.
Okay, Steve White.
Steve White. Okay, I got to ask a couple questions. You know how it goes about you, so the audience gets to know you. Where were you born and raised?
I'm actually a native of South Florida. So when you were down in West Palm Beach, and West Palm Beach is where I was born and raised. I was born and raised right there.
Now, I was surprised. I didn't know what's the dynamic between Black and White in West Palm. Is it the percentage and that kind of thing?
So West Palm, and that's a great question. So West Palm is so some interesting dynamics. Okay, it's we've got a strong Black population in West Palm, and then I physically live in a city right outside of West Palm, which is a majority Black city. But in the city of West Palm, which is the seat for the county, Palm Beach County, that city is probably 30% Black. And so it's a majority white city. The unique thing about West Palm and Palm Beach County is that it's a lot of wealth and a lot of poverty. Okay. So Palm Beach County is the home of Mar-a-Lago, which is Donald Trump's home, the home of the Kennedy family, going all the way back, is a home of a lot of old money. So it's a Palm Beach County, and West Palm Beach is an interesting dynamic because what we have here is white folks who moved here, who made a lot of their money in the North. They moved here and basically made this area a winter playground. Okay. And so in doing so, they really worked hard to make sure that there was no real Black advancement, because they basically wanted this to be a service industry for them. Oh. So you come to Palm Beach County, you come to West Palm Beach, it's got great restaurants and great hotels and like I said, a lot of money, a lot of millionaires and billionaires, and then you can go 2 miles and you can be in abject poverty. Okay.
All right. I gotta ask you, what town is the Black town then? What's that called?
Okay, that's Riviera Beach. In Riviera Beach, we are 70% Black.
So, and that's where you grew. Is there a railroad track that divides the two, so to speak?
There was, yeah. When I was growing up, there was, absolutely. You talked about the person you interviewed in Jacksonville integrating the schools. I was a part of that as a young man. So I remember, my first few years of school was all segregated, right? And then they decided that they would bring about this mass integration. But what the mass integration did for us was destroyed all of our schools. So we had these Black schools that were part of our community, the schools that educated our people. And when they brought about the integration, the way that they integrated the schools was to get rid of the Black schools and force the Black students to go to the predominantly white schools, where we now ended up being in the minority as opposed to when we were in our own schools.
I got to keep it real on the show. When you got over there, did you fight to some of the white kids? Was there some fights among y'all and all that kind of stuff?
You must know me. You must know
Yeah.
me better than I thought.
Okay.
Because honestly, the first year that we integrated, we literally fought white boys every day. Seriously, we fought them. I would say almost every day. There were fights going on because we didn't want to be there. They didn't want us there. It was a cultural shock for us, right? Because all of a sudden you come out of school where, like I say, well, you're the majority. I mean, well, you everything. The teachers are Black, the students are Black, the principal is Black, and all of a sudden we go into a white school where the principal is white, and the majority of the teachers are white, the majority of the students are white. And the one thing that I learned was that the white teachers didn't want to teach us. Okay, they didn't want to teach us. Whereas, when we were in the all Black schools, those teachers was there. It was a labor of love for them.
Oh,
They were
sure.
there to teach us. They wanted to teach us, and they demanded that we learn. When we went into the white schools, they had been teaching white students all of their careers. So they didn't know what to do with us, and we didn't know what to do with them. And so what did help us though was that there were a handful of Black educators on those school campuses that had come from the Black schools, because they had to, when they brought the Black students over, they also had to bring a handful of Black teachers as well. And so those teachers understood us, and they helped us get through, really, like I said, what was a cultural shock for us,
Sure.
because every aspect of it was different to us, man. I mean, even the way that the white students dressed, we came out of
Yeah.
a tradition where, you had your school clothes and
Yeah.
you took pride in how you went to school. When we got to the white schools, what I mean? They were wearing baggy t-shirts and
Okay,
baggy
I
jeans.
got you.
You know what I
Okay, but
mean?
how about this though? When you got there, the books was in order. The building was, and I'm just taking the assumption on this. The building was more improved and all that. You kind of thought, okay, this ain't so bad. Maybe is that the case?
That's exactly how they hoodwinked us, brother. That's exactly what the game was. That was the first time that we had saw brand new books. Okay. I remember uh sitting in the classroom and they brought the books in. They were still sealed in the boxes. And
Yeah.
this and we opened the boxes and unloaded these brand new books. So we had brand new books. We had a lot more choices when it came to lunch. So yeah, so they gave us better material things. When we were in the Black schools, we always had to take the books that were handed down to us after the white schools no longer thought they were good enough for the white students. So when we
Oh,
would get the books, we would actually, there would be a rating that you would get the book, and right in the front of the book, you had to rate the condition of the book. So when we got the books in the Black schools, they were in C condition as opposed
yes.
to A condition or B condition. So we got them in C and D condition. We got to the white schools, we were seeing brand new books. Like I said, all these different options for lunch and everything else. But we were sacrificing that environment that we have with those Black teachers, because as you know, those Black teachers could take that book that was in C condition and teach us. So
Yes, I
we
got
weren't
you.
we weren't sacrificing education because we had an older book.
I
You know
got
what
you.
I'm saying? We didn't,
Got you.
that was no sacrifice. So we hit the predominantly white schools, and they dazzled us with the, like you said, the better physical materials, but not with the quality education.
Let me ask you this, then. Okay, did you ever have, this is the one I want to ask you. Were you ever called the N word?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, man. Those we went to school with some white boys that was prepared to fight us every day. You know what I'm saying? We had some rednecks on that campus that was prepared to fight us every day. So the N word and every other word, they didn't back down. Okay. I mean, they didn't, like I say, they didn't want us there. and they knew that we didn't want to be there. But it was some brothers, I mean, we used to put our white T-shirts and jeans on, and we knew that day somebody was going to be kicking some ass.
Oh,
Excuse me for
really?
saying it,
I love. Okay, I don't know if I
but
love it,
that's
but okay. Did you ever have a white friend?
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Because what was so interesting about the school that we integrated was it was upper middle class whites, quote unquote, the liberal whites, okay, and then the rednecks. So you had a segment of white students that was they were enthralled and they wanted to learn more about all of a sudden these black students that they were going to school with, right? And vice versa, because it was a new experience for us and a new experience for them. So
Yeah.
yes, you had whites who befriended us
Yes.
and vice versa. You know what I mean? Because at that point now they had to play sports together. They had to march in the band together.
I got you.
So some of them were cool. I'm not going to take that away from them, but it was a still, like I said, it was a cultural shock for us.
Yeah.
And in the end, we lost more than we gained.
Oh, I see. Let me ask you
Okay.
this: did you ever think white people were better than black people?
I didn't, but did many of the students that I went to school with feel that way? I would say yeah, because that's what society teaches. And so we weren't immune to what society teaches and still teaches us. So,
Yeah.
society teaches us that white man's ice is colder.
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
mean, so that kind of mental syndrome still exists. So absolutely. But like I said, when we went there, see the thing about, and I've done a lot of work with parents and teachers and social workers and stuff over the years. So the point I'm making is that before we went into integrated schools, we had not been labeled. Okay. And labels, when you put labels on people, labels is one of the most dangerous things you can do, because you start stereotyping and you start labeling children and start labeling the black family, and then you start to act according to those labels. So nobody, when you come out of the black community and we had that village concept, nobody had the concept that we were poor, that we were culturally disadvantaged, that we were socioeconomically disadvantaged. All these labels that they started putting on us. So everything in our black communities, we were very intact. We had everything that we needed. Our teachers lived in our neighborhoods. Our principal lived around the corner. So the principal's son played with the barber's son, or with
I
the guy
got
who
you.
cut grass son. You know what I'm saying?
I
And
got you.
so that's how we got along. And so
Yeah.
we didn't have a whole lot of class issues, and we didn't have anybody telling us that we were disadvantaged. When
I
you
got
get
you.
As we integrated, and this is one of the things that I've dealt with as an educator, and the work that I do, like I said, with parents and teachers and children and everything, is that they started putting these labels,
I got you.
right? And they, for instance, like, I don't know if you've even heard the term, but they had this term called a latchkey child.
Mm.
So a latchkey child is a child that came home from school and their parents were at work. So you came home to this quote unquote empty house. Well, in the black community, that was no big deal.
Right.
You know
I
what
see
I'm
what
saying?
you're saying.
So, but when the sociologists got a hold to it, all of a sudden now that was some kind of a disadvantage for us. Whereas, black children, you came home, you knew that the door key was under the mat,
Yeah, that's right.
and you know what I'm saying? You knew to
Yeah,
get in
yeah.
there and get out your school clothes, and you
Yes.
knew to do your chores, whatever it is, before you went
Yeah.
outside to play.
Let me ask you,
So,
I got
but
a couple, let me stop you right there. I got a couple,
go ahead.
couple questions on that note. So, what was the main street of your neighborhood that had some businesses on it, that kind of thing? What was that called?
We had a street called, well, the name kept changing. That same street now is Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Okay.
Okay. But it was 8th Street, it was Inlet. The names kept changing, but like I said, at this present moment, it's Martin Luther King.
Let
The
me
thing of
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, the thing about that particular street, there was one in Riviera Beach, the actual city that I'm in, and then in West Palm, and of course, throughout the South, you wouldn't recognize those streets now. Okay, the street physically exists, but the businesses are gone.
Yo, I got you. I got where you're going with that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
businesses are gone. So one of the things that I'm gonna tell you the truth, brother. I always teach that integration was one of the worst things that happened to us, or maybe the worst thing that happened to us. Okay, because it was never designed to bring about, I guess, what you would call true integration.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
what it did for us was it caused us to lose our businesses, our schools, our culture, our values, everything that kept us intact and allowed us to move forward even in this racist society. But integration robbed us of that. So as soon as we could go to white-owned businesses, black-owned businesses suffer.
That's right. I'm gonna circle back to that, but I want to see you just a little tad. Let me ask you, do you know where the slavery is in your family?
Do I know? Say that again.
Where the slavery is?
And what do
Slavery.
you?
Like where your great grandfather, where he was enslaved at?
Okay, so what I can tell you is that my great grandparents came out of Charleston.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so if I had to tell you definitively, I would. I mean, I probably couldn't tell you
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
definitively,
yeah.
but if I had to say it was in that Charleston area, we grew up always being told that we were Geechees. Okay, so if
Oh,
you familiar
really?
with,
Okay, okay,
yeah, so you familiar
okay.
with the Geechee, the
Yeah,
Gullah
yes,
people?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we were always taught that, right? As even as children, that was always something that my grandmother and my mother and father and everybody taught us, that we were Geechees. So that's the part of the South that going back to my great grandparents, and obviously then my great grandparents
Yeah.
uh were in that Charleston, South Carolina area.
Do you how did y'all get to Florida? Were you like your grandfather some sharecropper, if I may
My
ask,
my
or anything
my
like that?
my my great grandmother and her husband were the ones that left Charleston and came to Florida. So after that, my grandmother is actually born and raised here in this same area. My mother born and raised here in this same area. So for me, this is like third generation people, or I mean third line of people that was actually born and raised here. But my great grandparents came here from Charleston area.
Okay. Let's go into this. Just are they a part of that Sticks community? And
Yeah. So the Sticks community, yeah, my grandmother was here, my great grandmother was here, going back to that time. The Sticks community was in the town of Palm Beach. So basically, how they have this thing separated is when you said you were in West Palm Beach, that name literally came from the fact that that part of town was west of Palm Beach. So you have the town of Palm Beach separated by the water. That's an island. And so the town of Palm Beach again is where Mar-a-Lago and Donald Trump is. It's that probably one of the 10 richest places in the country, if probably
okay,
in the top five. Okay. Um, so the story is that the Sticks was a black settlement on that island, and the white developers, Henry Flagler and other white developers who were coming south and saw the potential, needed to force those blacks off the island. And why I say the story is because we think it's pretty accurate, but of course there's no one was there to see everything. But the story basically is that they burned them out and forced them to come west and settle in West Palm Beach. So
now, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
no, so I'm saying that's a story about the Sticks. That yeah, so black people had the first settlements there on the island of Palm Beach.
Now, and I'm gonna just give you a little bit because I want people to hear more about what that Sticks is, and I know only this because I saw some of the historical markers when I was there. Is that the Flagler guy built two hotels, and
Mm-hmm.
he needed black workers to do the manual work and then the housekeeping and whatever, whatever. and they lived in a community there, just temporarily outside of where they lived in West Palm, and they would kind of commute back and forth during the week, what have you. Can you enlighten us a little bit more of that history?
Well, yeah, blacks were they were the labor. So you're right. They were the labor. I mean, they took care of as Flagler came down and built the railroad. And the railroad, which I think went all the way down to Key West, the railroad then allowed more and more whites to come and settle, more and more whites with money to come and settle on the island of Palm Beach, or what is now the town of Palm Beach. And black people were the chauffeurs, were the maids, provided the manual labor. So you're absolutely right. So black people were providing the labor as these white folks started to settle on Palm Beach. Henry Flagler built, if I'm not mistaken, he built the Breakers Hotel, which is probably one of the more famous hotels in the world, where all of the dignitaries, when they come to Palm Beach, where they live. And there's also a Flagler Museum there on the island as well. So he, along with some other developers, they kick-started the development on the island, and the blacks provided the labor. Absolutely.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Um, what is there a noted person out of West Palm that is you all civil rights guy or lady that helped fight for the injustices that were happening in the community? Different than, I mean, some names that we don't know that we should know of.
Yeah, there are names that, like you said, that you wouldn't know, but these were people that were fighters for us. There was a man, of course, who has since transitioned, Herman McCray. Herman McCray was, even when we were integrating the schools, he was that brother that was fighting for us day and night. Okay. There is black leaders, like there was a white man, even going before Herman McCray, going back to the time of my mother and grandmother, called, believe it or not, they called him Criker Johnson. Okay, but he was a black man, very, very light-skinned black man, but he had a lot of money. And he helped a lot of blacks start businesses. So he wasn't so much that fiery fighter, but he used his money. He could loan money to blacks who wanted money to start businesses and things like that. But people like Herman McCray, I'm trying to think of another brother whose name is escaping me right now, but Herman McCray, right in the town of West Palm and Riviera Beach, and there's a bridge named in his honor, right here, that actually brings you from West Palm into Riviera Beach. Herman was that person that we could look to when integration was taking place, because, as you asked earlier, we were fighting every day. And Herman was one. I mean, there were some others, but he was probably the leader who did not back down from white folks, and who fought for us, and who was not, he wasn't scared. Put
I
it like
got you.
that.
I got you.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean, so there are some who absolutely fought for us.
Right.
Herman is one of those names that come to mind.
Okay.
He was just did not back down. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, he was the brother who endured the death threats and everything else, because he would go to the school board meetings and raise hell. He would go, he would challenge the police officers. He fought, and he really wanted to make sure that black students were treated fairly, and he knew, like others, that we weren't being
Yeah, I
treated
got
fairly.
you. Did Dr. King ever come there? Is that noted?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Okay.
Not to my knowledge. No, not to my
Oh,
knowledge.
okay. Now you what got you to liking Black history, and how did you become who you are?
Well, the easiest question, and I believe this answer in 100%. The easiest question is, realize I was born for this. Okay, I really was. So as a young age, and I'm gonna tell you my story quickly. So as a young age, I wanted to know why black people were treated the way that they were. I wanted to know why we were being enslaved. I wanted to know why we had been made enslaved. down here in this area, there's also a strong agriculture area in a town called Belglade, and out in that area where they on what they call a muck. Grow a lot of the fruits and vegetables that you probably eat right today. Okay, and so that therefore there were a lot of migrant workers even when I was growing up, and they were treated terribly. A lot of them would come from Jamaica just for the season to harvest sugar cane and things like that. And I would always read about how they were being mistreated. And I always wanted to know. So one of the things that I did as a little boy,
Let me stop you right
my
there. I don't mean nothing harm. What do you say mistreated? What did you read about that said
I
they were?
read I,
Give me an
I, I
example of
read
their
about
mistreatment.
I read about the terrible conditions that they worked under.
Oh,
I
really?
read about the because I was reading the newspaper, brother, and this is no joke. I was reading the newspaper when I was 6 and 7 years old.
Okay.
And I would read about their working conditions. I would read about, for instance, when they was harvesting sugar cane back then, they was doing it with machetes. And so it was nothing for somebody to accidentally lose a finger, lose a hand or anything, right? They would fight just to get a toilet out there where they didn't have to just do their business in the sugarcane fields. So I was always reading about this,
I
and
got
so
you.
as a child, my mother did something for me that changed my life. She bought me. There was three of us, but I was the one who really asked for her, and she bought me a set of World Book Encyclopedia.
I got you. I remember
And
those.
I would read those World Book Encyclopedia. I would read myself to sleep every night, reading about the history of Black folks. And I was determined that I wanted to do something about it. And I wanted to help what people would say are the least of these, because yeah, it was those migrant workers, it was those people that was really being disadvantaged that I would read about, that I wanted to change that condition of life. So I realized that was my calling. That was something that I was always interested in. I always wanted to read about Black folks. I always had a love for history. I remember Ebony magazine came out. I think I was still in high school then, with Ebony's pictorial history of Black America. I'll never forget that. Man came door to door selling this three-volume set of books, the Ebony's pictorial history of Black America. And I remember my mother looked at me and she asked me, she said, "You want it?" And I said, "Yeah." And she found the money to buy it. And so I grew up with two sets of encyclopedias, also the Ebony Pictorial History of Black America. And I remember, and I would pick those up, and I would read about these Black folks and all these great empires in Africa that we had never been told about. Empires that didn't even have crime, you know, and just had all these great achievements. And so that just blew my mind. And so I just wanted to keep learning and learning and learning. And I knew that, my love for Black people, like I said, was unconditional, and it has never wavered. And so people who know me, they know. Like I remember the lady told me one time, she said, "Steve, you always into that Black stuff." And I was like,
Okay.
"Yeah, I'm
Did you have
always into that."
afro and dashiki and all that? Were
Oh
you
yeah, oh yeah.
that visible too?
We
Okay.
did all of that. I went to HBCU, went to FAMU in Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, always just wanted to know. Always had a love for reading, and that ultimately led me into writing as well. But yeah, so in Palm Beach County, and really throughout the state, and even beyond, they know the work that I do. In the city that I live in, I was given the key to the city for the work that I do in the community. I think you may have read, but I also got the National Mentor Award from 100 Black Men, because I've been
Oh,
mentoring Black boys for close to 40
yeah, I didn't
years
know.
now.
I did. I'll admit I did know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We started our first mentoring program probably about 40 years ago. So, and I've been mentoring Black boys ever since. And I have a mentoring program called From Black Boy to Black Man, What Does It Take? And it's probably one of the few mentoring programs where we have a curriculum that I wrote that's designed specifically for Black boys to help prepare them, as I like to say, to make that transition to true manhood. So we have that. I have a prison reentry program where I've gone into the prisons and worked with the brothers, as they like to say, behind the wall, working with those brothers. And now a lot of those brothers have come home and they've become fathers and business owners and mentors themselves. So I've, that's what I do, and I like to think that, my walk matches my talk,
I got you. I love it.
that I do the work. And then I've done a lot of work. I wrote a book called Helping Black Children Reach Their Full Potential.
You don't
And
have a copy of it there, do you? There it
can you
is.
see it?
Show us to it. We're gonna promote that too. Yes.
Helping Black Children Reach Their Full Potential. And in this book, what's interesting and why I love what you're doing is because it says there are 7 keys to developing the genius that's inherent in all Black children. And so the thing that I try to get across to teachers and to parents is one thing, that our children are born with genius potential, and it is inherent. Our job is to find the keys to how we properly nurture our children to bring forth that genius, because the potential is there. And so when we identify the 7 keys, one of those keys is that they have to have a knowledge of their history and culture. So that's why I'm saying you and I are vibing on the same page, because
Yes.
I say our children, how can our children know where they're going if they don't know where they're from, if they don't know anything about their history and culture? So in my mentoring program, in my work with parents, in my work with teachers, in my work with the brothers in the prison, it's all about them learning the knowledge of self. Because the edict that we were given was what? Man, know thyself.
Yeah, that's right.
And so one of the things that I stress is that with those 7 keys, one is that we have to have a spiritual and a moral foundation, because we are a spiritual people by nature. And I always tell people, now I'm not talking about religion, because religion comes out of the minds of men. Okay. But we are spiritual people by nature, and we are a moral people by nature. And so one of the things that's happening to our children is that our children have been taken off their foundation. They are spiritual people by nature, and they are moral people by nature, but we have started to adapt the immorality of this society, which has our children lost, because that's not who they are. So one of the, we go through these 7 keys, and we teach parents how to incorporate these 7 keys into the lives of Black children, so that they have that spiritual and moral foundation, that they have the knowledge of their history and culture, that we build their self-esteem, that we give them the unconditional love and respect that they deserve, that we help them develop a plan for success. Because one of the other things that happen in the Black community a lot is that we wish for things to happen, and I always tell them, you got to have a plan. How are you going to
Yeah,
get there?
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Let
You
me
know?
ask you this:
Yes,
Is
sir.
there somebody you read that and outside of a parent that really influenced you? Some book or something like that? Was somebody's teachings or something like that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I would probably start. There are many, but I always say that the Miseducation of the Negro should be required reading, okay, by Carter G. Woodson. So I firmly believe that every Black person should read Miseducation of the Negro.
Sum that up
And
for us, who some of us who have not read that. What
well,
about that book? Yeah,
I think because it just, so you, first of all, look at the title. It says The Miseducation.
right.
So what Carter G. Woodson showed us is the psychological traps that happen when our people are miseducated, when our people lose the knowledge of self. But not only that, he was detailed enough to show us how that works. How they manipulate our children with the miseducation, and how they then create for us an inferior mindset. Because going back to something you asked earlier, did some of our Black students feel that white people were better? Well, Carter G. Woodson teaches us in Miseducation of the Negro that that's been the game plan from the very beginning, was to teach us that we are an inferior people as opposed to really a superior people. And so he breaks that down for us. So, and what I love about Carter G. Woodson is that he writes in a language that we can understand.
That's right. Sure do.
Because so often, our intellectuals become so intellectual that they they lose contact with the people. And so I think that book. So in modern books, and when I say modern books, even though that's a book was written in the early 1900s, that's still a modern book compared to some of the others. But so I would say Carter G. Woodson. I would say the work of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, who taught us about the system of white supremacy and how that system operates, and Dr. Welsing taught us that, if we don't understand the system of white supremacy, what it is and how it operates, she said everything that we think we understand will only confuse us. And that's a fact, right? So I love the work that she did. And also the person who influenced her was a brother by the name of Neely Fuller Jr., who introduced her to this whole concept of white supremacy. And then, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, as a Black educator, the work that he did, the work that the brother, he's gonna come to me. Naeem Akbar, of course, I love his work. There's another brother who wrote the book about this, wrote on about the Black psychology of the Black, Amos Wilson. Okay, if you have not read his work and checked him out, and a lot of his old videos are even on YouTube, I would tell every parent, everybody to look at Amos Wilson. And then, there's Ivan Van Sertima, who taught us that Black people were here long before Columbus came, wrote that book called They Came Before Columbus. And so, I mean, there's so many. And one of the things that I'm committed to doing, brother, and this is that I don't want the work of all of those people to be forgotten, because they sacrificed for us. You know what I mean? They sacrificed for us. And so when I get weary and when I get sometimes, things aren't going right, I think about the fact that I do not want those people who gave their whole lives to educating us and working to move us forward. I don't want their work to be in vain. So when I think about Carter G. Woodson and like I said, Ivan Van Sertima and all of them, Booker T, they have some criticism of him, but he was working for our people in his
That's
own
right,
way.
sure was.
And so and Dr. King,
that's right.
Dr. King is probably the most misunderstood person, because Dr. King is a man that kept evolving, and they do not show us the Dr. King of 1967 and 68. They keep telling us about the I Have a Dream, and Dr. King said that the dream had become a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Dr. King kept evolving. So Dr. King was a brother who, when brothers became quote unquote conscious, they started criticizing Dr. King a lot, but they really did not really delve into his teachings, and they didn't delve into how he evolved, and they didn't acknowledge the fact that that brother put his life on the line.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes,
and we're gonna stand in it. And for your own opinion, why are white people the way they are? And I'm not trying to, I know I'm grouping them all together, but I'm talking about the manipulators. What is that? Is that personal event like Flagler? What Flagler did? He could have done it a little differently. He could have paid the people an even wage and made life's civilization better. So what do you think that dynamic comes from? And
you want you want my honest answer?
Oh yeah,
or you want the politically correct answer?
Yeah, I want the honest one. If you don't mind people seeing it.
My honest answer is I think that you're dealing with the nature of a people who's, I don't think that everybody's nature is the same. I think you're dealing with the people who has a more what's being reflected is a nature and a lack of spirituality, who don't have a moral compass, if you will, to use that term. And a people who value greed, selfishness. I think is something in their nature. There was a book written back in I want to say maybe the 70s or 80s. I think it was called "A Iceman Cometh" or something like that. And if I'm not mistaken, it was written by a white guy, I believe. But basically, he said that, we came out of Africa. Our people come out of Africa where we had everything that we needed. And white folks came out of a European culture where they did not have everything that they needed. You know what I mean? We had.
I got you.
You understand? And so his position was that it created in them a different type of a nature that was just based on greed and selfishness. And whereas black folks, we come from a culture where there was enough for everybody. So, we didn't come with that mentality of I got mine, you get yours. It was enough for everybody. And so we came from a sharing nature as opposed to another people who came from a nature of greed. And I think, and I'm gonna tell you this, brother,
Yeah.
real quickly. I think, because I do a podcast also that's just getting started. One of the things that I just talked about in my podcast is that white people have always operated from a position of fear. And the reason why I say that is because when you do all these things to hold our people back, is because you know that if you level the playing field, we would surpass you.
Oh,
So
there you
they,
go. There you
you
go.
understand? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there
they've
you go.
always operated from a position of fear, knowing that in fact they are dealing with the inferiority, but you project it onto another people to cover up your own weaknesses and
I love
shortcomings.
that.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And I honestly say, I don't care. 100 years from now, racism is never going away.
Because the nature of those people who perpetuate racism is not going to change. So they're and that's one of the things that we as a people have to learn, because we spent so much time thinking that we could appeal to their heart. And that's one of the things I'm telling you, that Dr. King, there's an interview of Dr. King on YouTube that he gave, I think 1966 or 67. It's a different Dr. King. And Dr. King said one of the things that he learned was that white folks just paid him lip service. He said he learned that white folks made you think that they were committed to civil rights and all of that. He said, but what they would do, and I'm going to bring it up to modern times, he said what they would do is that when you have an event like a George Floyd killing, he said they would talk and say all the right stuff right then at that moment while they were caught up in the emotion of that moment. He said, but as soon as everything died down, the racism continued to be perpetuated. So Dr. King said he learned that. He learned that he had been deceived, and he learned that white folks just paid lip service to it, but it was just a temporary thing for the moment when something shocking had happened. So when they saw the dogs being sicked on our people, or the fire hoses, that they would respond emotionally for a moment, but then everything went right back to the status quo. So you're right. That the reality is that we cannot appeal to their heart to change. It has to. We've got to create our own,
When
and,
when
and
you
operate from a position of strength.
when you do the work like you do, what's a good day for you? Like let's say you going into a prison, something like that. What's a good day?
Going into that prison, you know, I remember telling the brothers one time I was in prison working with them, I wasn't incarcerated. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
there
yeah. I
working with
got
the
you.
brothers.
We'll laugh at
Uh,
that.
and somehow we got into a conversation about drugs. And I told him, I said, man, let me tell you something. I said, I'm high right now. I said, because I'm getting high off of being here with y'all, talking to y'all, working with y'all, teaching y'all, because I'm learning, because I always tell people, when I work with people, even when I work with those young boys, 12 and 13 years old, I learn as much from them as they do from me. You understand? Because I always tell people every good teacher is a student. So I learn from them. So I'm in prison and I'm working with these brothers, and I'm learning from them and they learning from me. That's a good day for me. And I would go into the prison and I would be out there sometimes 7, 8, 9 hours. I would, as long as they would have me, I would stay, and we would just go at it all day long, right? And
Was it
and I was
scary in
just,
there though? Was it scary?
but
Was it scary?
no, no. I mean, I had a couple of little incidents, but all in all, no, it wasn't scary. I was built for that. I was built for that. I was built for that. The first time, I can be very honest with you. The first time that I spoke in a prison, my brother was incarcerated in that prison. And I was invited to speak at this prison, and he was my older brother, my only brother. I was invited to speak in the prison on Black History Month. He didn't even know his little brother could talk like that, right? But I get a chance to go into this prison and speak to these brothers. And the love and the response I got from them was overwhelming. I knew I was right where I was supposed to be. And so when I actually put together a real prison reentry program, we can speak things into existence, brother. You know that. You know that. And
Yeah.
so I remember telling my wife, I said, I need to get back into the prisons. And shortly after saying that, I got a phone call. And lady at the prison asked me to come out. She said, we got some men out here who are writing books. I also publish books. And she said, I want to know if you could come out here and talk to them about publishing their book. And when I went out there to talk to the brothers about publishing books, after we finished that conversation, I started talking to the brothers about them. And so they basically asked for me to come back. And it took off from there.
Okay.
And so I work with brothers. I mean, I have brothers who are home now who spent 25 years incarcerated, 19 years. I have brothers who went to prison at 17 years old, and but now they're home and they're men. They're raising families and they're running businesses. And like I said, they're mentoring as well, because I go to the juvenile centers and I take those men with me. Some of the men that I work with in prison have gone with me to the juvenile centers to speak to them young brothers. And when they go in there and start talking to those young brothers are on the edge of their seat, to hear what these brothers who done been behind the wall have to say.
I,
So,
I'm, I'm gonna ask you this:
yes,
Have
sir.
you gotten pushback from black people?
Have I gotten pushback from black people?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
And how does that
yes.
sound? What do you do when you get a pushback from them and you saying, "What in the heck?" How do you respond to that?
Well, I know that they're operating from a position of fear. One of the things that I learned in studying and reading and everything is that it's really only two powers. That's love and fear. That's it, love and fear. But fear just masks itself in so many different ways. And so when our people, it's like, I remember some people telling me my mentoring program called From Black Boy to Black Man. They wanted me to take the black off of it and just call it From Boy to Man, but that was their fear. You see what I'm saying? That was their fear. So when people used to think that I was hitting white folks too hard, that was their fear, because they were worried about what was going to happen or how white folks felt. So I understand that, where they're coming from. But to be honest with you, brother, the support that I have received from black folks far outweighs those fearful black people. Right? Black people I tell people all the time, black people have been very good to me. I'm not one of those brothers who talk about black people don't support each other, black people don't
Yeah, I
do
don't
this,
either,
black people
man.
don't
I
that.
don't either. Nope.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Mm.
With my publishing, black people have been good to me. With the support that I do in the communities, black people have been good to me. So black people have been good to me. So I don't, when we used to be out there on the basketball court playing ball and we'd be guarding somebody and be like, man, I'm getting ready to go to the hole. I don't even see you. And so
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
way I feel about the ones who I don't see
I
you.
I love it.
You know what I
I
mean?
got two more before we come to a close. Let's circle back. What awards have you gotten for your work? You alluded to it earlier, but let's circle back. I'm bragging on you to close this out, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I want to make sure I mention the websites too.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna. Yes, sir.
So I told you I was the National Mentor of the Year from 100 Black Men. I was also honored by the Tom Joyner Foundation. I was named one of South Florida's top Black educators. And as I mentioned, I received the key to the city from this, and that may be one of the biggest ones because that's the city I grew up in. It's hard for people to recognize you when you live right here in the city. They knew you when you was a little boy running up and down the street. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's right.
But so those awards have meant a lot to me. But and I'm going to say something, and I mean this sincerely. The biggest rewards really is when I run into them young brothers that I mentor, and they tell me, what I did to help them. I remember going into a restaurant maybe last year sometime. And a young brother, he was the restaurant manager now, and he was like, Mr. White, anything I can do for you, you just let me know. And because, and the lady said, well, who is that? And, he said, if I told you what this man has done for me, and he was like 12, 13 years old sitting in my mentoring program. So And you know, I love I do appreciate being recognized. I do, and I'm very very thankful for that. The 100 Black Men Award was a complete shock, but seeing those brothers and sisters, those mothers, I remember a mother telling me one time, she came up to me, you know, and she told me, she said, "You saved my son's life." You know, and she said, when you spoke at that prison, she said, my son thought he was losing his mind until he heard you speak. And
Mm.
I'll never forget that, you know. So those things, or my wife, you know, I'm a widower, but I was married for 42 years before my wife transitioned. My wife supported the work that I did, and always basically, you know, she was the one who kept me on point, you
I got
know.
you. I love
And
it.
so really the love that comes from the people, and that appreciation, because of, like we said almost again, brother, I genuinely love Black people. I do.
Let me ask you this.
Yes sir.
I gotta ask you this, and I'm trying not to cry because
Go
I'm
ahead.
feeling you, man.
Yes sir.
Are you an angel?
Am I an angel?
Yes.
But I guess I would have to ask you to define angel. I
You know
think that
what I'm saying.
I'll say this.
You can be humble about that all you want. But
Well,
when you
I'll
did
say
go,
this.
when you did what you did, you ain't that was angel like.
I think we have a purpose, brother. We have a purpose. I think we're sent here, you know, with the purpose. And I do say this about myself, that God gives us the tools to fulfill our divinely ordained purpose. So, do I have a purpose? Yeah, I definitely have a purpose in life. Like I told you earlier, I know that from the time I was a little boy, my love for Black people was there, and it has never wavered. I know that God sent me here, and I'm not talking religion. I'm talking spirituality, but I know that I was put here to help move our people forward. I know that, you know, and so that's just who I am, you know. And when you are that person, like I am, like you are, and like so many of us are, we can't run away from that. You know, you can't even run away from
It's
it.
a
You know, you
ministry.
pardon me?
Yours is a ministry.
That's what people tell me. That's what people tell me. You know, they like to use that word sometimes. And I have had people say that, you know, that this, you know, Brother Steve, that's your ministry. You know, going into the prisons, that's your ministry. The working with the young brothers, the mentoring program, that's your ministry. Um, but even just the one-on-one, or just, yeah, it's you can call it a ministry, but it's divine purpose, you know. And one of the things that I say in my book, just to hold it up
Yeah,
again,
hold
is
the book
that
back up. Yep, yep.
one of the things that I say is that one of the 7 keys is for our children to identify their gifts and talents, and then to identify their purpose in life. Because one of the reasons why we lose so many of our children is because they are frustrated, because they know that deep inside of them there is a divine calling on their life, but they've been caught up in the world, you know. And one of the other things I talk about is high expectations, because our children have these high expectations, and oftentimes it's the parents and the other adults in their lives that kill it.
I got you.
Okay, they
I
they
got you.
kill it. So our children become frustrated because they know that it's more to them than what they are
I
producing.
got you. I got two more, so to
Yes
speak.
sir.
Have you ever been scared?
Of doing this work? No.
Yes.
No. No. And I'm not trying to sound, you know, like anything, but no, that I'm not scared of. Doing this work, I'm not scared.
Has
I
anybody threatened you once to say, "I'm gonna get you for what you do"?
Well, you get people. Well, I'll put it this way. They have dealt with me more with intellectual threats, and intellectual ways of trying to silence me. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So real quickly, down in Palm Beach County, they have the Children's Services Council, and this council is taxpayer funded, and they then in turn fund a lot of social service agencies. So they would do a lot of workshops for these social service agencies and for schools, etc. A white woman saw the work that I was doing, and she fell in love with my work, and she contracted with me to present workshops all about the Black family. We were having so much success that in order for them to get rid of me, they had to get rid of her.
Oh my God.
Okay. So what they did was they and this is that intricacies of how the corporate world worked. So they promoted her. She was the training director for Children's Services Council. They promoted her so she would no longer be over hiring me to do the training. When they brought in a white Jewish guy to now be the training coordinator, I never got another phone call. Okay, never got another phone call. I've been doing this for 10 years with them, always had standing room only audiences whenever I would do a workshop. I mean, they would just hear that Steve White was doing a workshop and everybody was going to show up. And as soon as he came in, no more calls, no more workshops. They brought him in for that purpose. So I mean, so it's that kind of intellectual cutting, trying to cut you off at the knees. You know what I mean? And that's something that our people have to understand, is that it's always not just call you an N-word or
Yeah, right. That's right.
threaten
That's
you.
right.
You know what I mean? But it's those intellectual, or as the those character assassinations and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
would say
right.
I've dealt with that even more than just the little punk physical threats.
Yeah. Since you brought that story up, what was the backstory? Did what good came out of that for you though? Is there something you can say? But hey, let me tell you what happened as a result of that, or the company went out of business or anything
Yeah,
like that.
what good came out of that for me is that, yeah, and that's a great question, brother, because I always talk about what good came out of that for me. I was doing all of this work with social service agencies, teachers, etc. And I had gotten to the point where mentally I was telling myself, I want to do more work with parents. I want to do more work directly with parents. So when those phone calls stopped from the Children's Services Council, that was confirmation that it was time for me to go back and do more work directly with the parents. So they didn't hurt me. They literally just pushed me in the direction of where I knew I
There you
needed to
go.
go.
There
You
you go.
understand?
There
Yes,
you
sir.
go.
Yes, sir.
Tell us again, what's your website? Oh no, hold on, man. You an angel, dude. You an
I
angel.
appreciate that, brother. I appreciate you. I
Here go
appreciate
Angel
you.
Steve White right in front of us.
Well,
That's
I
what that's
appreciate
he
you.
ain't got you ain't gotta have no halo, man. He
No,
ain't
you're right.
talking
You're
all
right.
that.
You're right. So I actually have two, but let me talk about this one
Yeah.
where the book and everything is available. It's called Hattie'sChild.com. That's HATTIES. Hattie's Child, all written as one word, Hattie'sChild.com. My mother's first name was Hattie, and I'm Hattie's child. So I have a website called Hattie'sChild.com, and you'll see all the work that I do with the Black family, my books, because I have also a workbook for Black boys. I'm gonna just hold it up real
Yeah,
quickly.
hold it up. Yeah.
This is a workbook called From Black Boy to Black Man, and this is what does it take. So what does it take for our boys to make that transition to true manhood? And I always tell them that the key to manhood is to unlock the mind. Okay, so this is a workbook for 12 to 18-year-olds. So I have a mentoring program, but parents can also buy this workbook and have their sons work independently with this workbook. There's a lot of challenging information in here, a whole section on history. I mean, we show them the Olmec heads and the pyramids and all of that in here. So that website is Hattie'sChild.com. And then I also have a website called protectivehands.com. That's my publishing company. I started publishing books basically when I wanted to write a book myself. I decided that when I wanted to write this book here, I said I was self-published. And once I self-published, other people asked me if I would help them. And so for 20 years, I've developed a full service publishing company. So I've helped a lot of authors publish their books as well. So protectivehands.com is where everything about the publishing, hattie'schild.com is where you learn about the work that I do with the Black family. And, so it's an honor for me, brother. And I mean that. And one thing that I do know, and I've said it all the time, is that there's no such thing as a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. And when I was first told about you and that you wanted to come to the area and that you indeed were coming to the area, and then the sister asked me, she said, well, Steve, I want you to introduce him, when he comes. And it's no coincidence.
Yeah, no coincidence.
No,
Hey,
no
everybody, this is what I do with Strong Inspirations. I'm blessed now before I started this interview, more so because of this gentleman right here. I did not know the whole story, but hopefully y'all felt the story of that he is deemed for this, and he took the mantle. So follow him, go to his website, so on and so forth. Hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations, because I am fortunate to find people like this in some circumstance. I just happened to say I'm going to West Palm, and my man was the guy they put me in touch with, and so that's a beautiful thing. And I'm staying in touch. I'm gonna meet him again. I'm gonna shake his hand in a different way too. Next time, because I want to feel that godliness come out of him and get into me, so I can do more. So y'all down there, y'all in that town, recognize him. Y'all already have gave me the key to the city, so on and so forth. Hit the like button on this video. There is no love button. Sorry about that, but that's just how they do. Hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up. You get a ding, a shock, smoke signal, something like that. Tell somebody about Strong Inspirations. Do not keep it to yourself, please. Don't you run around there talking about I know all this and don't tell people where you know it. Let it flow. And then go to his website. It'll all be in the description, so on and so forth. Follow him if you in that area. Look for where he's speaking and show up. And stand and sit in the front row so you can really get it all. You can hear it eloquently and efficiently in all them leads that you need to hear. And go to my website, businessintheblack.net, get you a copy of my books, and come see me speak, as he had mentioned to you. And then to you, my brother, I say this, and I mean this with all sincerity, man. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love who you become.
Thank you, brother.
Somebody said something to you and you know it. Yes, somebody gave you something to read. Something triggered in you in the middle of the night and said, this is who you're going to be. And you ain't no chump, because you was fighting them kids back because they was saying things that you didn't like. And it was understandable.
That's right.
And some of them you might have met later and they said, man, I needed that butt kicking. That might have happened too. But I've been following you. So it wasn't that you were just a vicious kind of guy. I don't get that at all. Don't get that.
No.
And then you spend your life to help strangers. That's the catch. That's angel-like. That's what I call it. People that you don't know. Some of them don't appreciate it. And you kept going anyway. And then you got other forces trying to stop your efforts and your work. And you keep going anyway to this point in time. I appreciate you, my brother, for what you're doing. Let me do this. Let me give you the closing comment.
Well, first of all, thank you. And what I would like to say is I do want to encourage the people to go to the website, hattie'schild.com, and check out the work. Again, as I said before, there's no such thing as a coincidence. So me appearing on your podcast is divinely ordained. It was meant to be. I want to say to our people, don't get scared. Don't get scared. And, some of our people, I think, are fearful right now because of Trump being the president. I just want to say to our people, don't get scared. This is our time. We're moving forward. This is a wonderful time to be alive. And we're moving forward. But, it says each one reach one, each one teach one. And I remember the great Gil Scott Heron said, he said, not everybody no one can do everything, but everyone can do something, you
There
know?
you go.
So we need to understand that we are at war for the lives of our people and especially for the lives of our children. And we shouldn't be afraid. We are going to be victorious. The victory has already been ordained, but we got to do the work. Okay, we got to do the work. So we need brothers like you to teach us that business is that's who we are. You know, I mean, that's what makes your book so powerful, is because, you know, so many of the young people that I work with want to be entrepreneurs, and they need to know that entrepreneurship that's who we are. You know, so when they need to know that owning Black businesses is this is not a new phenomenon for us. Like as you taught us, we were doing this during slavery. You know, we were building businesses during slavery, and so it's just an honor, brother. And I want you to stay strong. I want you to keep. I love what strong actually means and represents. And so again, it's an honor, and I am looking forward to us being together again in person.
Yeah, gonna happen.
And making some good things happen. You know, maybe we're gonna probably gonna end up tag teaming on something at some
That's
point.
right.
You know.
That's right. I want to. And you're gonna
Yes,
lead the
sir.
team. Yeah, I'm
Yes,
just
sir.
gonna push you in the back. You know how to take them blows.
Yes,
Hey
sir. Yes,
everybody,
sir.
that's us. Thank you so very much. We out. Bye bye.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.